what Nathan has to say.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. It is an honor to be here with you in Novato. It's really a privilege. My name is Nathan Harmon, and I've been able to, over the last 10 years, speak in 1,600 schools across America, schools in Tokyo, in Guatemala, Zimbabwe, Brazil, Jordan, and all across this nation. And I wish I could speak all those languages, but I use an interpreter, which we have one tonight, and I'm excited for that. I talk fast, so I'm going to try to be a little bit more intentional. But it's just an honor to be here with you. Ma'am, I have a burden when it comes to mental health and substance abuse and behavior when it comes to young adults. And it's not from the clinical, it's not from academia. It really is from lived experience. And what I love about lived experience over the last several years, the World Health Organization, NAMI, some of these recognized organizations that are global, they've really realized the value of lived experience. Because what you've been through is what you can speak to. And I've just been trying to make a difference in young people, in old people, in all people. Wherever I can, I just try to inspire people. And so tonight, it's an honor to be here with you. I always show a picture of my wife and my kids. This is my family. It's been a privilege for my family to travel and to do this. We are a family collective unit. We've raised our kids. We try to make them confront, fight, and fail forward. We try to give them opportunities to dare to believe that it's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to stay that way. And the reason is because we as people, we're problem solvers. We as people, we were born to do hard things. I believe with everything inside of me, we weren't meant to go under, above, or around, but we were born to go through because we can do hard things. And tonight, as I want to bring you in on a little bit of my journey, a little bit of my story, but also then frame resiliency, because I think we as parents, we as community members, we as educators, we as just people who care about this next generation of young people growing up, we have a lot to do with helping them navigate their story. You know, what's interesting about young people is that they're doing something that no young person ever had to really do before. I'm from the Midwest. I'm from Indiana. There's a lot of corn there. It's flat. But now I currently live in East Tennessee in the Smoky Mountains, the Appalachians. And there's a lot of mountains. And when I grew up, there would always be like that grandparent that would say, when I was your age, life was hard. I had to walk uphill 5 miles both way barefoot. And I'm like, yeah, okay, and that's real. But what young people are having to navigate today with the advancement of technology, the advancement of social media, and just a world that's a lot more interconnected by the internet, they're navigating their social skills, their emotional skills, how they process. They've been exposed to so much more at a younger age that when you and I grew up, and most of us here are adults, and maybe there's a student here or there, but the truth is we grew up through elementary school and middle school and high school and a little bit slower pace when it comes to the connectivity to the rest of the world. Right now, we have everything at our fingertips, and it's information overload. And what I've learned through just my journey in this space of mental health and substance abuse, and just as the brain develops, the science of the brain, what I've realized is that we kind of mature at this pace as our brain develops. And as we went through elementary and middle and high school and college, we had more creative control as we went. We had more opportunities, more experiences. And as we grew and as we developed, the same time as we were getting older and maturing, we were also developing those default settings, those processes of how do I react to trauma, and how do I react to choices, and how do I react to adversity, and how do I react to emotion. We kind of developed at more of a, I believe, natural rate 20, 30 years ago, 15 years ago. But now, because young people at a younger age have this device in their hand, and I told the students today, I'm not against social media. I'm not against the tech world. I won't say it's good or it's bad. I just know it's powerful, and that the important thing that they have to do is they have to know that this can't replace this. And I try to reframe the students today, and I was able to speak to 2 middle schools and a lot of probably your children, and it was an amazing experience. And I try to reframe the word social media. I said, I know we call this social media, but honestly, this is just like a digital connection. And I walked up and I'd smack hands and I would hold hands, and I said, this is social media. Human connection, being in the room with somebody, having that human connection, because connections matter. There's a reason psychologists, psychiatrists, counselors, therapists, they ask us questions. Growing up, you think they would ask you questions because they were just, I remember watching movies and you would see, the person go in and lay on the couch and the therapist is asking them questions and they're talking. And when I was younger, you just look at the therapist and the counselor, from my perspective, as like they were just trying to solve their problem. But what I've realized as I've gotten older, the reason we ask questions is because when someone begins to talk, resiliency gets activated. Grit and resiliency, it's inside of us as people, but it's ignited by talking, because we are, I believe, the greatest computer ever built. We have the ability to process and to figure stuff out. We were born to do hard things. And so tonight, it's an honor that you're here. I talk about these topics because I know what it's like to struggle. I know what it's like to navigate adversity, and I want to bring you in just a little bit of my story. I was born and raised in the Midwest, Indiana. I'm an Indiana kid. There's a lot of corn. It's flat. But I came from a family of 4, and when I was growing up, it was mom, dad, sister, and me. And my father and my mother, they never really fought in front of me. I kind of was young and dumb and naive, and I thought I had a picture-perfect family. And growing up, my father, he was that larger-than-life figure. I looked up to him. I wanted to be like him. He was a role model to me. The challenge is that I never really saw my parents have disagreements. I never really saw them argue. They tried to kind of shield me from some of those things, and I understand their why. But I kind of had this perspective that my world was picture perfect. And I always say my dad, he tried to teach me basketball when I was a kid, and he beat the brakes off of me. He never let me win. And he would always tell me, you're going to figure out how to get around me one day. I'm not letting you make a bucket. You got to know that hard work works, make good choices, good things happen. You have the ability to overcome. But I remember at 11, my world changed overnight. They set me and my sister down, and within a few 30 minutes of a conversation at a family meeting, my parents began talking about the divorce and the separation and how things weren't going to work out. And my world changed overnight. My father moved up and he moved out, and I always say he ghosted us and he was gone. And here I was as a young person, and I didn't ask for it and I didn't sign up for it, but now I'm here having just to deal with it. And I think that's a challenge for communities. One of the challenges, the friction points that we have as we go from elementary to middle to high school, and as our world gets bigger to when we're in college, and to when we're 20 and we're 30 and we're 40 and we're real young in here, right? As we grow up, the challenge we have is navigating situations and circumstances that we didn't really have creative control over. We just had to deal with. A young person, sometimes it's tough, right? When, for me, my father walked out of my story, I had no say in it. I just had to navigate it. And one of the challenges that we have is learning to leverage and to navigate the things that I can control and the things that I can't control. It's the word creative control. I'm huge on that word right now, especially in 2026, with the word creative being such a trendy topic, content creation and music creation and AI, everything creation. We are creators. And how do we continue to take creative control of what we can control and allow the things that we can't control? It's there, we can't change it, but how do we look at it from the proper perspective? See, pressure can bust pipes, but pressure also can make diamonds. I believe with everything inside of me, pressure's never the problem. It's how do we react and how do we respond? Some say it this way: you're never a product of your environment. Yes, the environment kind of gives you a framework and an experience of what you've had to endure. And I've been in every corner of this country, in every different kind of demographic, and every kind of economical status. Like, I've been around a lot of private schools, public schools, all across, and they all, yes, have different lenses, but we're never a product of the environment. We're defined by what we do. The challenge is that's not always easy. Pressure can bust pipes, but pressure can make diamonds. And I told the students today, the truth is, though, this is what makes, I think, us as people special. We're rare, we're scarce, and we're unique. Science proves it. Science proves you and I are individually very unique, and I can say that is because of my fingertips and my fingerprints. These fingertips and fingerprints on my hand are unique to me. These grooves and these little kind of valleys and these kind of unique markings on the end of all of our hands. They're so unique that if you would ever get arrested, which I hope none of you have, and if you did, I relate, I've been there too in my journey, that these fingertips are so unique to me that anything that I touch, that when I got arrested when I was 18 and 20 years old, they fingerprinted me and they put them in a database because they're unique to me. I'm a one of 8 billion. And we live in a world that we put value on things that are rare, scarce, and are unique. And when I began to realize, like, diamonds are rare, scarce, and unique, and diamonds are made in fire and intensity and uncomfortable elements, that, see, pressure, it can bust pipes, but pressure can also make diamonds. Pressure's not the problem. It's how do we react and how do we respond? And for me, when I was 11 years old, all the way up to this picture that you see here, it's me at 18, but really it wasn't until I was 23 did I really kind of get a handle on my story. And it wasn't because I just came to the end of myself and I just figured it out. I made some choices that I'll talk about. But in this journey of being a young adult, as my world got bigger and I went from elementary school to middle school to high school, I didn't close the bedroom door like my parents did, but I got really good at putting on the fake face. I could walk the walk and talk the talk and go through the motions, and I could keep everybody at an arm's reach distance because, to be honest, if my father could walk out of my story, how could I ever trust any of you? If my dad could abandon me when I was young, how could I really have meaningful connection and meaningful conversations and authentic relationships? Because again, if my father could walk out of my story, what makes you think a community member, a counselor, another family member, it really affected me. And the thing about being authentic and vulnerable, and in a world where we long to have creative control, again, this is something that's deep inside of all of us, to control the things that we can control. The one thing that I can always control, regardless of the environment, regardless of what somebody's done to me or said to me or what I've had to kind of go through, what I can always control, who I let in and who I don't. It's the ultimate creative control. And so for me, when my father walked out of my story, to have meaningful conversations and to have authentic relationships, it demands a word called trust. And to be honest, I didn't trust a lot of people. Because again, when I trusted my father, how it happened, I felt like I didn't enjoy the feeling. And so I kind of told myself and conditioned myself, I won't let anybody in until I feel like I can. And the problem is, feelings aren't the way that you learn to trust people, because feelings aren't final. Feelings aren't always based in facts. They're authentic to you and to me. How I feel, it's really how I feel. But I can prove it. If I had low self-esteem in school, and if I walked by you and made eye contact with you and you two were laughing, I just assumed you had to be talking about me. And how it felt was insecure, and the emotions and the feelings of sadness or anger, the feelings were real. But if I went and confronted you and I find out you're talking about a soccer game or a basketball game or a theater play, and I realize, wait a minute, just because I felt a certain type of way, my feeling wasn't necessarily based in facts. And I've had to learn that trusting people isn't something that you just do on feelings. Truthfully, trusting people is something that you learn over time. The mentor, the coach, the community member, the parent, that person that's consistent and persistent, and they're speaking life and they're speaking truth into who they are, that, hey, you can do hard things, and hey, you have family support behind you. And I'll talk about this in a little bit when I start talking about resiliency. And a core principle of resiliency is identity. See, when someone knows who they are, you won't bend to some of the challenges around you. And so that's important when you're a mom or a dad or a grandparent, that you're speaking impactful, positive words over people. There's a study, if you've ever saw it, where like they had rice and somebody was being negative to it, or there's a plant and they're being negative to it. And literally the plant and the rice, it responds to the positive words. It responds to the negative words. See, our words carry weight. And so I've just learned that when I've been raising my kids and when I'm around community, how can I constantly speak positivity and life to people? How can I continue to frame my teenager, my son's 13, getting ready to turn 14? How can I constantly, every chance that I get the opportunity, to speak positive reinforcement words to him, that, hey, man, I believe in you and you're not alone. And if you ever need to talk to me, what I'm doing is framing an identity to him that he knows that, hey, I'm Ashton Reed Thomas Harmon. My father, my mother, like my people believe in me. This is who I am. No matter what comes against me, I can withstand the challenges in life. See, helping our young people have an identity of who they are, and you know who your kids are. You kind of know your family kind of operation and some of the principles as a family dynamic that you kind of go on. There isn't some metric that every family has to have, but I always tell my son it's the Harmon way. It's okay for others, but it's not okay for us. It's okay for this, but it's not okay for you. So I've learned to speak to my son in a way that's constantly giving him an identity, because when you know who you are, it creates resiliency. I regress on that. I'm getting ahead of myself. I went through my journey of high school, and I went from straight A's to straight F's. I went from being a young kid who had the world, and by the time that I go from middle school, I always say I could tread water for a while, but eventually it became too much. My freshman year, I began to have thoughts of wanting to take my life. I tried twice. And the fact is, it wasn't the fact that I just wanted to die, if I was being honest. I just didn't want to deal. Constantly dealing with the uncontrollables, dealing with the next piece of adversity, dealing with the next challenge, dealing with the next uncontrollable situation and circumstance. And it became too much for me, where I started having these thoughts of, why don't I just give up? No one's going to care. I've been there. I dealt with the internal pain with self-injury and self-harm. I have scars on my hands when I battle with self-injury and I battle with self-harm. And these are things that our young people are dealing with, mental health and behaviors, and it comes to the social and emotional. Like, this is real. I've been in front of 2 million students across this country. I always ask, how many of you do you know somebody? Not you, but you know somebody. And hands will get raised, because a generation of young people are beginning to lose the reality that they can navigate challenges. Not all, but it's real. I've been there. I navigated that. And I developed tools, default settings. This picture that I meant to show, this picture right here, right? What just happened? It went away. It's okay. I'll hit the button. It's all right. We're back. See, we're building apps on our heart. On the home screen of my phone, if I got this from the Apple store, there would be no extra apps on it. It would be the standard way that Apple made the phone. But as I begin to user interface with it, as I begin to kind of spend time with the device, the things that I like to do become more prevalent. And as a young person right now, they're forming apps on their heart. How do they react to pressure? How do they deal with challenges? And how do they deal with choices? And how do they navigate to do their work or not do their work? Or how do they deal with how they treat other people? See, people right now at that age, they're forming these default settings. And so for me, I was developing default settings of isolation and developing default settings of not letting people in. And then the pressure came out this way. Hurting people hurt people. So I started stepping on people and making fun of people. And now today you can get on these keys and you can say hurtful things to people. This was one of my ways that I dealt with pressure and I dealt with adversity. I would step on people and make fun of people. At the end of the day, I was walking wounded and I was just trying to take my worth and take my value because hurting people hurt people. That was one of my processes, right? So here I was growing up and I'm navigating my adversity and the hurts and the challenges, and I'm dealing with my mental health and anxiety and what if and what if and what if, and we build stories in our heads and it paralyzes us because we just don't understand that, wait a minute, in the now, let me just do the next thing and let me treat people the next right way. And so for me, the pressure came out with my mental health. It came out with hurting people. I was that kid. And then it came out with substance abuse. I got involved with alcohol and I got involved with popping pills and drinking and getting into this space. And my dad was an alcoholic, and I found out later that he had a lot of addiction. And I told myself I was never going to be like him, but I was so focused not to become like him, I found myself walking right into his footsteps. And by the time I'm a senior, I had developed all of these coping strategies that would never get to the root. See, addiction, the challenge is sometimes is that it masks the hurts and it masks the pains. It's a quick fix. But just like when I would blow up at somebody or yell at somebody or hurt somebody with my words, it's a quick fix. But you will wake up just as empty as you were the day before. And I was developing all of these coping strategies that never got to the root. To be honest, it led to a life full of just pain. To be totally transparent, I got kicked out my senior year. I didn't graduate, straight A's and straight F's. And again, lived experience. At 23 years old, I was living in my hometown and going through the motions and just broken and having a hard time of developing meaningful connections. You begin to believe it is what it is, so why should you try to change? And just the challenges of life. A bunch of my friends at 23 years old, they came home from college and they invited me to go to a party. And again, I was living in a really difficult space, never kind of stepping into my story. So they came home and they wanted to go to a party, and we're 23, we're legal age to drink, it's who we are. So we go to the party and I had some more drinks of some alcohol, and this is just kind of what we do. I was 23. The alcohol runs out that night and they said, hey, we're going to go to the bar. Do you want to come? I'm 23. And so I caught a ride and we went to the bar and I had some more drinks at the bar. And they said, hey, Nathan, the bar's going to close and we're going to go to another friend's house. Do you want to come? I'm 23. It's what we do. So I was too drunk to drive, so I got on the phone and I called my friend Priscilla. Priscilla had moved from Alabama a few nights previous to this evening, and a few months previous, and she was a friend of one of our friends, and she wasn't there that night, and I needed a ride, and they said, call Priscilla. So I got on the phone and I called my friend Priscilla, and she showed up to get me, and my buddy Mike stopped me and said, Nate, you're not driving. And I said, no, she is. She's my designated driver. And we walked out of the bar that night, but somewhere in the process of leaving the bar and getting to the car, I got the keys. And I know it's impactful for this community because there was an accident that just recently happened. At 23 years old, I got the keys to Priscilla and we left. And we didn't make it to TJ's house. We were right around the corner from TJ's house, and I can see her face and I can hear her voice, and this is her, it's my friend. She screamed one word, and she screamed the word tree. And I was in a helicopter being lifelined to a hospital. And I woke up in a hospital bed with police over top of me asking me questions. What's her name and who is she? And I said, her name's Priscilla Owens. They couldn't identify her because her cell phone was locked and her ID wasn't in her purse, and she was fighting for her life. And I woke up and I said, her name's Priscilla Owens. What's going on? And they said, well, Mr. Harmon, we can't tell you anything. She's alive, but by that time, my mother had arrived, and she was in the corner of the hospital room. And for some reason that morning, they didn't arrest me right then and there. They were probably still trying to figure out what kind of a crime to charge me with, a DUI or a DUI with bodily injury. But they released me, and they said, we'll be in contact with you sooner. On the ride home, my mom began to give me some more details. And because my sister was a nurse, and when the wreck happened, she got the phone call and relayed information to my mother. And she said, on the ride home, Nathan, your life's about to forever change. You hit a tree at a high rate of speed. And you had on a seatbelt, and your friend Priscilla, she didn't. And upon impact, she made impact with the windshield, and there's a lot of trauma, like your life's about to change. And as a 23-year-old kid, you know, I used to sit in seats, and you would hear speakers and communicators and the dangers of drugs and alcohol in this whole space. And I got home and I called the police and I called the hospital and asking questions, but nobody would tell me anything. It wasn't family. The newspaper said 2 lifelined to Parkview, Indiana, one fighting for their life. And so I decided to stay up the entire night, and I made every deal with myself. Let her live and I will change my life. And at 2:47 a.m., the paper delivery guy came peeling around the corner, and everything slows down, and I can see the white of his eyes, and it's a white Jeep Cherokee. I remember it vividly, and he drove by, and he rolled the window down, and the paper hit the ground, and I jumped up, and I ripped it open, and I read 3 words that changed my life and another life's forever. The word said, crash victim. Crash victim had died. And my friend you see, if I could change anything, for sure it would be July 17, 2009, when I was 23 years old. I'm 40 today, I'm a little older. If I could change anything, it would be this night when I got the keys, and I own it. She came to get me, and somehow I got the keys, and she's gone, and it's my fault. But 3 days after the accident, and this is just the story, it's my journey. 3 days after the accident, the Owens family, they wanted me to contact them. Priscilla's had moved from Alabama. I had never met her mother before. I had never met her sister before. And they want me to contact them. I'm a 23-year-old kid. What do you say? I'm sorry, forgive me. What's this conversation look like? And I remember I pick up the phone as a 23-year-old kid, and I call the Owens family, and I'm weeping, and I'm saying, I'm sorry, but what does that even mean? And they say, Nathan, we don't know you. We've never met you, and we're angry, and we're confused. But we, as a family, we've decided that we don't think one dumb choice should destroy 2 families' lives. And we've decided in this moment to pick love over hate and to forgive you. And we don't even know what that means, but we're asking you to do one thing, and that's please don't let our daughter pass away for nothing, and try to make the world a better place. And so as a 23-year-old kid, of course I say yes. And listen, I know that's not normal. That's not a natural response. They had every right to hate me, to demand justice, and to demand that my life be destroyed, and that's fair. My mom's even said, Nathan, if this happened to you or to your sister, I don't know if I could have found the courage to confront, fight, and fail. And to be honest, as I've looked back over 17 years, I've realized that no matter what happens in life, there's an ability for a person to find the courage not to go under it, above it, or around it, but to find the courage to go through it. And I wish that family, the Owens family that I'm close with today, but they found this radical courage that no matter what life brought them, to have a resiliency and a grit. And they asked me to do one thing, and that was to not let their daughter pass away. And so, of course, I say yes, but what does that mean? But choices have consequences. And so at 23 years old, I was charged with reckless homicide, a DUI resulting in bodily injury. And I found myself as in like a movie, in the jumpsuit and in the shackles, and it was so surreal. As a freshman, I was voted in a school of 2,700 students going to be one of the most successful freshmen in my class. And by the time I'm a senior, by the time now I'm 23, when I should have been a senior in college, my friend, she was gone, and it's my fault. And I find myself going to a penitentiary, to prison. Like this never was ever what I've ever have thought in my story. And at 23 years old, it would have been easy to quit. I tried to take my life at 18 and 20 years old. I have scars on my hands when I dealt with self-injury and self-harm, anxiety that paralyzed me, anger and rage, hurting people, drugs and alcohol, substance abuse. I found all of these counterfeit connections, all of these ways of coping with hurts and pains that was always like a stone skipping across the top of the water, but it never had any depth. My father walked out of my story when I was 11, and now here I am as a 23-year-old kid, and my friend is gone, and it's my fault. My choices affected other people. But they asked me to do one thing, and I began to look in the mirror and decided it was time for me to confront, fight, and fail. So I wrote the words, change the world, and I put them on the bathroom mirror. And I realized that in life that we only have certain things that we all can have creative control over. See, every one of us in this room, we have a different lens of creative control. Your world and your perspective and what you've been through, we all have different realms of what we can control and what we can't control. Our home lives are different. Our relationships in the community are different. We have different experiences. But at the end of the day, we all have a place where we have creative control and we don't. And if we as people, young or old, can control what we can control. See, when I put change the world on the mirror, I didn't know that I would get released from prison 11 and a half years early. When I put Change the World on the mirror, I didn't know that I would become a communicator and have a skill set to speak to high school students and middle school students and college people and adults and challenge them to dare to believe that no matter what life happens, no matter what your story is, we're all beautifully broken. Some way, somehow, we're better together. As long as there's breath in your lungs, it was a quote that my father had to me. He used to always tell me, as long as we're breathing, as long as there's breath in your lungs, as long as you're breathing, yes, you can. There's hope in your heart. So I put Change the World on the mirror, and I began to realize this reality of resiliency. You see, resiliency isn't the fact that you avoid problems. It's the fact that you find the courage to confront, fight, and fail. See, resiliency to me, really, it comes down to these certain kind of principles, these certain disciplines of identity. It comes down to these words of discipline. It comes to words of perspective and support and adaptability. That this resiliency, it's the ability for you to take whatever you are, and sometimes where you are has been self-inflicted wounds. You've made poor choices. You've kind of put yourself in a very unique situation, and sometimes life just happens wave after wave. But when I put Change the World on the mirror, I took control of what I could control. I couldn't control when the food came and the food left. I couldn't control when the lights went on and the lights went off. I couldn't control when the door opened and the door closed. But you know what I could control? I could make my bed every single day. And so literally 17 years ago, I started every day making my bed. It was the one creative control that I did have. And I had a family that asked me to make one thing and one thing real for the rest of my story, was to try to change the world. And I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't know if I would get released in 2024 and I would become like a nonprofit owner of helping homeless people. I didn't know if I would start a company and try to build. I didn't know what Change the World looked like. But I started making my bed every day. And I've realized, let me control of what I can control and not let me allow everything else to live rent-free in my head. And so I began to do that. I decided to make the next right choice and to treat people the next right way, consistently and persistently. And so then I started signing up for some college classes of psychology because I love the way the mind works. So now I have a choice to do my work or not do my work. And so here I was in my environment, trying my best to live a life with those words of identity. Who am I? That's the question that I had to ask myself. And that's the question I try to always to speak to young people. Who are you? What's your why? What's your why? What lights you up on the inside? And we as adults and we as parents, we play a huge role of constantly dialoguing with our kids. And sometimes people will be like, well, my kids don't want to engage with me. Keep building bridges. Keep having conversations. And sometimes because they're growing up in a unique time in world history, maybe you need to sometimes step into their space. If they're gaming, sit right next to them while they're gaming and be like, what you doing? And like, get away from me. I don't want you here. That's cool, but what you doing? How are you playing? I'm just trying to build bridges. Whatever it looks like, have dialogue. And even if they don't respond, if they don't engage with you, I promise you subconsciously, you are building equity in their life. And you have to continue to speak life into them because their identity, when they know who they are as whoever they are in your world, in your impact, and in your influence, it strengthens them that when storms happen, that man, we're not meant to hide from the storms, but we were born to dance in the rain. And real knows real. And authenticity creates authenticity. And so for me, when I put Change the World, that's what I began to do. And now I'm constantly realizing the discipline of controlling what I can control. You know what's important for us as parents? I believe it with everything inside of me. To give our teenagers, to give our middle school kids, to give them chores. Like my son, since he's been 7, like he had a responsibility to take the trash out every single day. And that may seem simple and small, but the truth is as my son began to grow up and I gave him chores like taking the trash out or making sure his bed was made or making sure like, hey, today you're taking the dishes out of the dishwasher. What it's doing is that discipline is making him feel a part of a collective whole. And what happens, my son now, as he's gotten older, when the trash doesn't get taken out, to be honest, true story, I just talked to my wife and to my kids just a little bit ago, and my son was like, Dad, dude, I forgot to take the trash out. And I was like, oh, this just happened. And it's 2 weeks because we were in Indiana the week before this and we worked back. And so he's like, Dad, it's been 2 weeks and I take the trash out every day, but we got a trash can that's now full and we have 2 trash cans because we have a lot of kids and a lot of trash. And he was like, maybe when you get home, we can go and like load up some trash bags and take it to the dumpster. See what it is though? He knows that he's a part of something and there's a responsibility in his life. See, discipline, when we're dealing with young adults and suicidal ideation and anxiety and depression and just the emotional wave, and I guarantee you as parents, some of your children and some of your kids' friends, when we start talking about mental health and we start talking about anxiety and depression and just the challenges of a world that's so hyperbolic and man, this thing is left, right, left, what's up? Everyone's yelling and angry and there's not a lot of nice people. It's important to give our young people some structure, identity, speak life to them, positive reinforcement. And I don't care if they're 18, 17, they're your children, they're your kids. Speak life over them, but also continue to invite them in to have some responsibility because that makes them feel like they're a part of the collective whole. See, resiliency, it's inside of all of us, but sometimes you have to continue to help prime the pump and to continue to help kind of cultivate the space where as they grow in to who they are as so-and-so's kid, or I'm a part of this organization, or I'm a part of this team. Like, I know who I am, identity, but also discipline. And then I always say it's the PSA, public service announcement, but it's not public service announcement. It's perspective, it's support, and it's adaptability. This is what resiliency is. It's identity, it's discipline, perspective, adaptability, and support. This is how we as parents can continue to raise a resilient group of young people. And it's not as easy as 1, 2, 3, ABC. But for me, these are ways that I've learned to be resilient. See, when we start talking about perspective, it goes to that idea that, man, no matter what life brings you, you have the ability to see, I could hand you this can, and some would say the can's half empty, some would say the can's half full. You know what the truth is? I have creative control to decide how I see this can. It's perspective. Pressure can bust pipes, but pressure can make diamonds. Pressure's not the problem. It's how do we react and how do we respond? And so for me, this is what I was doing. I put change the world on the mirror and I simplified my life. Can I make the next right choice and can I treat people the next right way? Can I just make choices? When I put change the world on the mirror, I told all the students today, I don't know who was in the room. I don't know what your story is or what your story isn't, but I know in this room there are probably educators, and in this room are business owners, and in this room are going to be content creators, and in this room are going to be graphic designers, and in this room are going to be people that are veterinarians, or whatever it may be. I don't know who you are, but you do. And when you begin to kind of find your why, and you begin to kind of process who am I, and you put something in front of you, one of the greatest parts of mental health, it's giving us small goals, because what you feed will grow and what you starve will die. It's not an end-all be-all, but as I've been around millions, literally millions of students, ever since COVID, to be honest, so many young people, they kind of live through everybody else's highlight reel. They're kind of caught in this space of not moving anywhere. And man, when they begin to have a small goal and they begin to realize, like, at the end of the day, goals can change. It's like headlights in a car. It's 500 feet. You just got to keep moving in a direction, and slowly over time, you begin to find kind of your passion, who you are, what you want to do. Challenging our young people to have those goals. So for me, I put change the world on the mirror, and slowly over time, 500 feet, it became more clear. What happened is 2.5 years into actually 2 years into my sentence, the state of Indiana started a program. They wanted to take somebody incarcerated and have them travel across the state of Indiana and speak to IU, to Purdue, to Ball State, D1 colleges, criminal justice students, community members, to try to speak to them from a lived experience. I would go and speak to students and come back to prison. 3.5 years into it, the governor of Indiana, they wrote a letter, his council of substance abuse, that I was more effective and efficient in society than I was in prison. And I walked out of prison 11.5 years early. And I came home to my hometown and I got met with this: Nathan, you're an idiot. You're never going to change. You're always going to be what you've always been. But I took that change the world off the mirror and I put it on my first house. And I made a promise to a family that I was going to try to impact a community, one conversation, one person at a time. And I reached out to 100 schools across Indiana. I literally burned a CD. They recorded me at Ball State University, and they sent me home with the CD. And I took the CD, and this was like 14 years ago, 13, my math's not mathing, but it was 13 years ago. I burnt a CD. Literally burned a CD. Like high school, college, middle school kid, like, what's burning a CD? I burnt a CD. I put Adele, There's a Fire background music. I got a one sheet of all the venues that I spoke at. Ball State, Purdue, IU. I didn't tell them I was in prison when I spoke at it. It was a little too much information. But I literally looked up 100 high schools across Indiana. I got a manila envelope. I wrote with a black Sharpie the address, principal, counselor. I put a CD, a one sheet, and I mailed it just knowing the principal can't be that busy and they're going to get a random document in the mail and open it up and have a CD and put it in their CD-ROM and hit play. I used to have a man bun and it was wild looking, and they were going to be like, hey, let's bring this guy in and let him talk to my kids. But it's adaptability. It's a passion. One school said yes. And I walked into that school and I let my heart, and I walked through lived experiences, and I related to the students like probably some of you, if you had kids, maybe they came back and they shared with you today. And man, they leaned in, and kids were actually turning in when they were self-harming, or turning into counselors blades that they were self-harming and throwing away. Like it was wild. And I was just talking about life and choices. And one school turned to 10 and 10 turned to 50. And now today in 2026, I've been in 1,600 schools in the last 10 years. There's not a communicator that's been in more high schools and middle schools across this country. And that's not a big deal. It's not really matters anything other than the fact that I know that real knows real. And resiliency can be born and to be birthed, but it comes with identity. It comes with that discipline, controlling what we can control. It's perspective, helping our young people, no matter what's happening. How do you see it? How could you pivot? What could you do? Conversation, dialogue, the human connection. It's support. It's learning that at the end of the day, I'm at a place in my story, I don't care who's right, I just want to get it right. I've realized there's been a lot of times with my kids that maybe I've overreacted or I've been frustrated. You know, I'm quick to say I'm sorry. I'm quick to be the one that circles back around and kind of just says, hey, yeah, I kind of lost my cool there a little bit, I'm sorry. I'm real with my kids. I remember my son was 7 years old and he came to a school with me and he said, hey, Dad. And he listened to the conversation. He said, hey, Dad, my 7-year-old, will you take me to the tree? Yeah. My 7-year-old. And I remember I take my son to my hometown when I was there, we were visiting family. And I take my 7-year-old to the tree that in 2009 I was solely responsible. And I remember I talk about this raw and real and vulnerable. And I take my son to the tree and he says, Dad, it's the dumbest thing you could ever have done. And I'm like, yeah, son, it is. But this is what we need as a parent. And I can't tell any of you to parent, right? Like you have your own levers, your own mechanism, your own principles, how you see the world, how you're trying. Like I can't tell you how to parent. That's never what I'm trying to do on these. But what I can tell you is real knows real. And the more vulnerable and real you are with your young people, the more transparent you are with your young people, they're going to continue to understand that, wait a minute, mom and dad, they've had their own journey, their own story, their own struggles. We're all kind of beautifully broken. See, my parents, unfortunately, they try to protect me from every kind of pain point, every kind of misstep. And I get their why. They were trying to protect me, not let me be exposed to certain things. I do understand it. But I've just decided as a father, like I just want my son and my kids to see my scars. Because man, we've all got scars. We're all beautifully broken. We've all got stuff. But we're better together. And so again, this perspective part and this support. But then it's adaptability. It's being pliable. To be honest, I was in front of a lot of your students today, and man, you got great kids. Man, they leaned in and they listened, and a lot came up, and some related. And I always say, your story, my story, it's the story. My story may not directly overlap with you, but there's parts and principles. It's the human connection. It's this word, creative control. It really is. To me, the most important word we have today, it's that word. It's creative control. I love that picture. That's me in Jordan. I spend most of my time in the Middle East in Jordan. I love the Arab culture. It's amazing. But it's because I've learned creative control. I've learned I can control what I can control. And how can I continue to instill in my young people to be real, to be vulnerable, to be authentic? How can we continue? And like I always tell them, like it's social media, technology, it's not going anywhere. But I can't let this take the place of this. I use these ladders, and you're like, probably what's this ladder on the stage for? Like, did the stage guy forget? No, I use ladders all the time when I speak, and I won't do the whole ladder thing tonight. Maybe I will, maybe not. But here's what I've learned about ladders. Ladders are just like you, and they're just like me. I'll give you the framework. I do it in the schools because I need the shock and the awe. You guys chose to come here. I don't feel like I gotta shock and awe you. When you go stand in front of 600 8th graders and 6th graders and 5th and 8th, whatever graders, you better have some understanding, like you better come with your A game. So I do these talks that are an hour long, and they're like TikTok talks. I'm going in fast pace, and then I reset it and reframe it, and I'm talking about another subject, and I reset it and I reframe it. And every time, like as they're leaning in, like it's this one thing after another, it's fast. You're like, bro, this is fast tonight. I'm on like autopilot right now. But ladders, they're a lot like you and they're a lot like me, and here's why. Everywhere I go, I ask for them. And they come in every different color, yellow and orange and green and blue and black and tan and white. I remember the first time I ever did a ladder, it was right before COVID. And I was in Colorado, and it was a real formal event, and there was like 1,000 people in this gymnasium, and like important people were there, and it was a real organized organization, and like there was like a stage crew, and like there was an order of like this window and that window, and here I am. And if you know me, like I just feel the room, I float, and I just go. Like I don't have memorized nothing. I got talking points, and we're gonna figure it out, because who's on the receiving end, they just need to know like it's real. Like I don't care to give you information. I want you to walk through this door and be like, man, like I can navigate life. Like I can continue to speak to I have a part to play. And so I told the stage guy, I was like, hey, yo, bro, I need the ladder on the stage. And he's going through his clipboard. I'm like, it's not on the clipboard. I don't even know what I'm about to do with it. And he put the ladder on the stage, but it's developed into being kind of, what's my time? I don't want to keep you forever. It turned into this thing where ladders are a lot like you and they're a lot like me. They come in every color. They actually come in every different size, 6 foot, 8 foot, 10 foot, 12 foot, 30 foot. I've stood on 30-foot ladders before, Topeka, Kansas. It was crazy. I got great insurance. The school made sure. So did your schools. They made sure you had insurance. But ladders, they come in every different color and every different size. You know what's amazing about ladders like this? They come in every different material. Some are aluminum, fiberglass, steel, and wood. See, ladders are kind of like you and me. We're all unique. Different shapes, different sizes, different colors, made of different things, and they all have their own story. Some ladders get covered in drywall, and some ladders get covered in paint. Some ladders are picture perfect in probably your garage, never to be used. And some ladders get covered on top of work trucks with storms and sleet and rain and snow. Maybe not so much here, but ladders are on top of work trucks. But no matter what the ladder looks like, and no matter what the ladder's been through, no matter what the ladder's story is, the only way it's effective is you have to climb it. And my whole life, because I didn't believe and trust people, and I wouldn't let people in, I was told time and time again, I need to make better choices and I need to make better decisions. Yes, I hear you. I know that's true. I believe it with everything inside of me. There's never a wrong time to make the wrong choice. Wait a minute. There's never a wrong time to make the next right choice. Hard work works. Make good choices. Good things happen. What you feed will grow, and what you starve will die. My wife's like, Nathan, you're like a walking billboard. I used to have shirts, and like all my catchphrases were shirts, and my kids would make fun of me, and they would just like say all my catchphrases and be like, Dad, I can do your talk. Da. True story. But it's all about choices, and I've heard that my whole life, right? And so, but the problem is, if you don't have any support, and when life happens, can I just ask you guys a question? As adults, right, as community members, How many of you in your story can you think about something in your story that, man, as you were growing up, you had to encounter and kind of navigate something that you didn't ask for, you didn't sign up for. Life just brought you some adversity and you as a person had to deal with it. Anybody relate with that, right? We all do. And the challenge is growing up, if we don't have support, when those moments happen, right, things that are out of our control and they smack against you, and you don't have any kind of community. But what I've realized, there's something about the human connection. And I tell high school kids and middle school students, you have to find your horizontal relationships, eye to eye, friend to friend, peer to peer, people that you can let in and be honest and open and vulnerable and transparent. I'll keep talking so nobody knows Mary's mom, right? No, it's good. Honestly, it's totally good. I'll have my phone ring too. Call me. Listen, don't call me. I have a wife. But you can be like a mom to me. Where did that come from? Your phone rang, it's your fault. But listen, I realized community matters. And so I tell students, you got to find those horizontal relationships, friends you let in. See, there was a lot of times I should change, I want to change, I need to change, but nothing ever changed. I bet you many of you in here on some topic, on some subject, at some time in your life, there's been moments where you've told the authentic you, I should change, maybe I need to do better at this, or maybe I need to try to switch this up, and you really had that conversation with you, I should change, I want to change, there's some areas that I need to change. It could be big things, mental health, substance abuse, behavior, or it can be small things, procrastination, kind of how you treat your coworker, your employee. I should change, I want to change, I need to change. But nothing ever changes. How many of you ever told yourself, like, I need to change something, but truthfully, it never changed? Anybody? Right? Yeah, because change is uncomfortable. You know what we do? I should change, I want to change, I need to change, and nothing changes. And you know what we tell ourselves? This is where I want to be. Nope, I'm cool, here I am. But the truth is, this isn't where I want to be, it's just what I know. And what I know is comfortable. And no one wakes up and wants to confront, fight, and fail forward. But I realized when I began to let people into my story, and I tell students, you got to find those people that are eye to eye, students your age, and bring them in, and they can hold your ladder. And I take students and they hold the ladder, and I literally try to make this ladder fall, like I'm ripping it, and kids are holding the ladder, and I can't fall because I have support. But then I get halfway up, and I tell the student, but you can't just choose your friends, because eventually you'll get to places that your friends can't help you. And you got to find vertical relationships, mentors and coaches and teachers and parents and community members that have some lived experience, that actually when you go through something that maybe your friends don't relate to, that you can find some community members that can speak life to you. See, there we go. We're in together. You don't feel bad. I couldn't plan that any better. That was just for you, Mary. There's something about community. We're better together. And so I use these ladders, and I get to the top, but I stand on it, and it freaks everybody out. I wish I could do a flip, but I would die. But I tell students and I tell people in this room tonight, to be honest, we've been told to climb our whole life. And yet we try, and then we fall. But you know, things get caught, not taught. Things can be taught, but a lot of things get caught. How many of you growing up did you have a friend that, man, you could kind of finish their sentence? Anybody in here? They were that close to you? Sometimes you dress a little bit alike. Sometimes you as you were growing up, see, we absorb. That's why I tell students and people, like, who you surround yourself with matters. You don't always have creative control at home. To be honest, my father wasn't the greatest. There were some things I absorbed from him. And sometimes some of our parents, and you, I hope, are in this room, and we're trying our best to engage and to support our kids. We're trying to help instill and help things get absorbed of how to deal with life and adversity and process and resiliency, grit. But sometimes we don't have creative control of home. But you know what we do have creative control of as a young person? Who I surround myself with. And the power of the human connection. And what I've learned about life is this. Yes, I need to make choices. But I've realized it's what I give away, it's what I get to keep. And so I always challenge a young person at the end. I said, the real challenge of how I've learned to overcome it, I'm 17 years sober, and I'm 17 years on this side of wanting to take my life with suicidal ideation. And it's not always been perfect on mental health. It's 5 steps forward and it's 3 steps back. I always say you got to run parallel, find people that you can talk to, let them in. And it's not have to be perfect. Sometimes we repeat, replay, relapse. Sometimes there's this journey of life, but who are the people that you're going to talk to? Because talking actually rewires the brain. Talking actually gets to the root. I had a lot of coping strategies that never got to the root. It was the quick fix. But when I started running parallel and talking, eventually I wouldn't go to the resource that was the quick fix. I went to the thing that really worked, human connection. So I always tell students, the question I have for you, and it's not your ladder. Whose ladder are you holding? Because when you become a young adult that you care about your community, you care about your friends, you care about people in your school, and you stop being someone that hurts people because hurting people hurt people, but you start adding value and adding compassion and kindness, and what you give away is what you get to keep. And when you begin to care about other people and you get involved with community and you start helping people, by default, when you're around helping others by nature, you begin to climb your ladder too. So I live my life this way. I call it the 5: transparency, accountability, hard work, good choices, and valuing people. You know, the Owens family have been really special to me, and I never take that lightly. We speak a couple times a year, and I just made a promise to them 17 years ago that I was going to try to speak life to students and get them to walk out of these halls and out of these classrooms and just wrestle with the idea of like, who am I? I was born to do hard things. What are the default settings? What apps are on the home screen of my life right now? How am I treating people? And how am I dealing with the controllables and the uncontrollables? But resiliency to me is something that we as parents and as a community, we play a part in. Helping give them identity. We speak life to them. Positive words over them. Even if they don't respond to you, I promise you, words build and words tear down. You as a parent, as a community member, you're entrusted with helping them understand who they are, or challenging them to be a critical thinker for them to think about really who they are. But we also got to help give them some discipline, have them take out the trash. Why? Because they're a part of something. And when they don't do that little small thing they're a part of, as they get older, they realize, wait a minute, I have value. My life is intrinsic. Like I am rare, I'm needed. Part of a collective whole. Perspective. How are you reframing some of your kids when they're navigating stuff? Support. How are you supporting them? And how are you constantly living by example, the best that we can? How to, when life gives us lemons, we make lemonade. And for every up, there's a down. For every mountain, there's a valley. It's okay to not be okay, but it's not okay to stay that way because we were born to do hard things. I'm just thankful for you guys tonight. I don't have all solutions. I can't tell you how to parent, but I can tell you this. Resiliency is very much a part of your exposure to your young people. Identity, discipline, perspective, support, adaptability. We as parents, we got what it takes, but it takes intentionality. I always tell parents, we get mad at our kids. They're on these things all the time. I always say, how much time's on your screen time? Where do you think some of these things got caught, not taught? Sometimes it's easier, like kids are like, Dad, my kids will be all the time, they're on my top. Like we're supposed to have our phones off at 9 o'clock. If it's 9:03, my daughter's like, Dad. And I'm like, let Dad. Discipline. To be honest, I won't go there. No's can become yeses and yeses can't become no's. It's a little more difficult. My son's 13 and he doesn't have a phone yet and he's getting ready to turn 14 and he's been asking. I've just been like, man, bro, you're good. You're with us. We travel a lot. I know that's not all of our experience. Just remember that, though. Maybe you get some littles. No's can become yeses. Yeses are much harder to become no's. When they have something, it's harder to take it away. So I, as a father, as a parent, I'm just slow. I may talk fast, but I'm slow when I'm given access. Because no's can stay no, and they understand it. Giving something and taking it back, it's a little more challenging. But I do know this, if you got littles, even if you got a 17-year-old, and that phone's in your name, if that ain't their phone, I don't care what they tell you. I don't care how much they have ownership with the apps on their home screen. You're like, yeah, miss me with that. Have you ever tried to take a 17-year-old's phone away from me? Not yet, but I will one day. Guys, I'm just honored to be here with you tonight. And to be truthful, it's a privilege. And I'm thankful for your community for bringing me in. And I believe there was real impact made in your school today. And I hope tonight, sitting here, some things you've heard, I'm not expecting you to walk out of here and be like, that is the most picture-perfect way to deal with resiliency. We're all different. But I'm 17 years sober. I'm 17 years on this side. I'm thankful for the Owens family. And I'm trying my best to make an impact and to give back to a community. Life is experiential. Make sure that you're taking time to have experiences with your kids. I take my kids everywhere. One time I said, hey son, what do you want to do? And my son's been to like the pyramids 3 times, and he's traveled a lot. He's really well traveled as a 13-year-old. And I remember I was like, what do you want to do? And all of his friends were like, you've been to the pyramids and all this. And my son was like, Dad, I want to go bowling. Perspective, right? Perspective. I just want you to know that you're fully capable of being an amazing community member, uncle, grandma, mom, dad. But can I say this? The most valuable resource any community have is the public school. Because it really is the very nuclei of the heartbeat of your city, of your community. And even if you don't have kids that are running cross country, even if you don't have kids that are playing baseball or volleyball, maybe going and just supporting the community. Because those young people, it takes a village to raise those young people. And you going there and just encouraging them, and you going there and just speaking life and being a part of like adding to, like you believe in them. Because I told the students today, and I'll tell every student that I ever speak to, school is the one place that they can have complete creative control. They can't always control home, right? Wrong or indifferent. Sometimes that's good and sometimes that's bad. They can't always control the community around them, but they can control when they come to school, the effort they put in and how they treat people. And if they can use school, not just to get education. School today isn't about just going and graduating and going to university. Yes, education's powerful, opens up doors, needed. But today in 2026, you know what school is? It's the one place that a young adult has complete creative control. And they can learn life lessons when it comes to how am I treating people? What I give away, it's what I get to keep. How am I dealing with trauma, adversity? How am I navigating? School, it's the training ground for a well-rounded human being. That's why I always tell parents, community members, man, you better rock out your school. Go get involved. Be supportive. Do your best. And it's okay that we're not perfect. 5 steps forward, 3 steps back. But I've just been around too many moms and dads and parents and community members that have lost their kids. I've hugged too many parents that have lost kids to suicide. I've lost kids to addiction and overdose. And it's a process. But I believe we're going to figure this out. We're going to continue to learn how to be better when it comes to technology. It's not going anywhere. We're in a learning curve, all of us right now. As much as we are watching our kids grow up with this, we're also learning to parent. I tell teachers all the time, the most difficult thing to ever probably be today as a teacher and an educator in the public school Like they didn't sign up for that. And we also didn't realize we were going to become parents and have to navigate this too. So give each other a little bit of compassion either as well. Let people fail a little bit and don't be so critical. You know what we haven't did well with? We haven't been really good with conflict resolution with each other. We haven't taught our kids how to disagree but still get along. Just being honest. We're a very polarized country, and I'm at the end of the day, I'm like, I don't care who's right. I just want to get it right. I just want my kids to know that, like, hey, I don't agree with this person, but I can still look at this person, have a conversation with this person, and I can value this person because they have a perspective that I don't have, and together we're better. That's facts. And that's what we have to instill in them. I've learned to be slow to speak, quick to listen, and love well. So with that, guys, it's an honor to be here. Where Your Life Speaks, my name's Nathan Harmon. I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to be a part of your community, and I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you.